We got ourselves a bit of news here today for Space Marine 2. Basically, Focus Entertainment has done a big Q&A, and they've answered a lot of questions from the community about things that they've wanted added to the game, some balancing questions, and what have you. Now, in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my video, here's just some big things that they've talked about. By and large, they have a lot of the things that we've asked are coming in the next patch or a future patch, which is good. But some of the things that are not coming are stuff like shoulder swap. There will not be any FOV slider changes. There will be, there's also, when it comes to Chaos Cosmetics, they're looking at ways to change things, but they will not be anywhere near as modular as Loyalists. But a lot of what is coming, though, is pretty awesome, right? We're going to be getting different lenses for our helmets. We'll be getting some quality of life updates for general customization options, which are just patches. So just free patches added to the game. By and large, what is discussed here isn't monumental. It's mainly bringing up stuff like the MELTA weapon being overpowered and the bolt weapons feeling underpowered. But mainly they said, the bigger issue is not the power that's related to those two weapons. It's that the difficulty of specific enemies makes them feel like bullet sponges, and that's their higher priority. And I agree with that. I think that bolt weapons feel underpowered because enemies are bullet sponges, you know? So I'm really interested to see how a lot of this comes together. And I just wanted to kind of go through a lot of the bigger things here just up front so you have a good idea of what is in this. I'm going to have a link in the description and the pinned comment. If you don't want to watch this whole video, I don't blame you. Go ahead and just check out the link. I totally understand. But if you want to hear me talk through things and give you my reasoning of things why I disagree or agree with it, we're just going to go through every single one of these questions and discuss. But if that's all you want to know, please feel free to simply shut the video down and get back to enjoying Space Marine 2. But for those sticking around here, let's get started here on the Space Marine 2 Q&A from Focus Entertainment. If you are heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. But let's get going here. We'll even start off here with just the display of what's coming. I mean, they didn't mention it in this thing, but we know ultra-wide support, private PvE lobbies, and Battle Barge Sparring Arena are coming. And that Battle Barge Sparring Arena can't come soon enough because I think it's going to help out a lot of people that are struggling with specific weapons. And I did also forget to mention this in the beginning. They did talk a lot about assault and the balancing for it. And a lot of the balancing, they're still waiting to compile a lot of data. That's a big point that I totally forgot to say in the beginning, and I probably should have, but whatever, we're already here. So let's keep going. So connectivity issues, like, hey, you know, we're looking at it, the server's at capacity, so on and so forth. The typical kind of stuff you get from companies when they're dealing with connectivity issues that did not expect the reception of the games they got. It is what it is. A bigger patch is planned soon to improve this topic further alongside new content. So we will be getting quite a bit of content this month and especially next month. Because remember, Season 2 starts in October, which brings us the Dark Angels Champion Pack, which is going to be a Bulwark, a Cosmetic Pack. We don't know what the Weapon Skin Pack is like, though. I would assume it's all Dark Angels Weapon Skin Pack. But the Cosmetic Pack is going to be just like the Ultramarines Cosmetic Pack. I don't know if it's just 6 successor chapters or what. But we know it's going to be in that same line, that same breath. Now, the first topic is about AI bots. Basically, the question here is saying that the AI bots are just ineffective. And they said that, hey, we don't want the bots to take away from the player. And I get that, you know, not wanting to have it so that the bots are getting all the executes. And honestly, too, especially the way that if you play a lot of Ruthless, I exclusively played Ruthless in the 4th difficulty now, or 3rd difficulty. Losing executes can be really punishing, right? Especially if you're trying to line them up with a bulwark to get some health back, if you're trying to get them to get some contested health back that you've created on your own, or just trying to get armor back. Losing executes is huge. So I'm okay with their stance there. But they did say in the next patch, we have a few improvements of their behavior against boss fights in the campaign. We're also considering improving their involvement during specific objectives in the campaign for a later patch. And that's great in campaign. I'd like to see it, though, in operations. I'd like to see them actually trying to pull their weight in operations, because that's when I notice that they suck the most. I have over 100 hours in this game. I've yet to touch the campaign. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But they have said veteran difficulty will be tuned down quite a little bit, not quite a bit. It will remain challenging, but it will still be slightly more fair because we will tweak the AI aggressiveness on this difficulty. Other difficulties will remain untouched, which I'm stoked about. I want the game to be challenging. I find that if the game is weak, if it's too easy, then people master it and they move on. Ruthless in operations, an Angel of Death, which I'm not played in campaign. I want it to be so punishing that I almost don't want to play it. I want to learn how to get better at the game. This is what increases my skill and makes me better and makes me feel fulfilled when I get a good operation done with friends. That being said, though, the lower difficulty shouldn't feel so punishing that I don't want to get better at the game. So there needs to be a give and a take, right? So for balancing, the kind of short and narrow of this whole section here is that they're collecting data. And on one hand, I'm actually very okay with that. I like it because we are barely a full month into release, right? Like not even a full, we're like 2 weeks into release. So I think drastic sweeping changes to things is not good. With that being said, not good without enough data collected. With that being said, I think with or without collecting data on people like the Assault in PvE, Assault is often listed as less powerful than other classes. The jump pack in PvE loses its versatility compared to the one in campaign. I don't think you need to collect more data for that. That's just a fact. The jump pack in operations is booty shit. Now, with that being said too, having gotten my Assault to 25 and played a lot more with tweaking those perks a lot, I've gotten more use out of the jump pack, but it requires perks that if I move off of them, I'm basically build locked, right? I can't have any build diversity because if I do, then the jump pack loses its effectiveness. And that effectiveness is then dictated by my weapon and making sure my weapon is at relic if I'm playing at ruthless. If you don't have the highest tier weapon, then your weapon's going to feel like a noodle jump pack regardless. So, and I think too that outside of data collection, another big issue with Assault is that too many of its mechanics are based off of jump pack perfect dodge, which kind of defeats the fun and gravity of using the jump pack, which recovers very slowly until you get the kill perk. There's a perk that every time you kill someone with the jump pack ground slam, it recovers 10% every kill. So if you kill 5 things, that's 50% back. So you can see how it can get better in the later levels, but I still think that regardless of any data points you collect, it needs to have the same functionality as PvP and campaign, hands down. And even maybe just the ability to regenerate it as fast, because it's so risk rewardy here to the point that the reward is never worth the risk in higher difficulties when you put yourself in a position to really get worked. I have a whole video coming out on that later. So blocking weapons here, they said, hey, it's a bummer. We fully agree. We'll definitely make changes in a future patch. So that's probably not the patch coming, but the one after that. In a future patch is always kind of like, it's like the soon trademark, right? When you're talking to a game dev. So we'll see what that looks like. Now to talk about the bolt rifle, which we brought up in the opening here, we have noticed a bug where the MELTA allows the user to heal above the contested health. We aim to fix this in the next patch. So that is coming. Enjoy your MELTA while you can. That's probably going to come out next week, probably next Tuesday. As for the rest of weapon balancing, we hear you, and some weapons can under-deliver on the power fantasy at higher difficulty levels. But we also recognize that enemies can be too bullet spongy on higher difficulties, which is not much fun. That's the core issue rather than the bolters themselves. And I totally agree here. If you've played Ruthless, try attacking 3 or 4 Tyranid warriors that are holding devourers. Those are, for those that don't know what those are, that's basically the little needle shotgun that they shoot out. Those things will brick you in no time flat. And trying to shut them down quickly is not a fast process for nearly any weapon aside from maybe a MELTA or a multi-MELTA. Like, it really isn't a fast process. And those warriors are so tanky. For those that play tabletop, I've been playing it for 20 plus years. Tyranid warriors were always kind of like an MSQ, right? They were always not that marine level equivalency, but they've got 5 toughness. They have a 4-up armor save. These guys are swinging at me like they've got an 8 toughness, unheard of, right? With a 2-up armor save and a 2-up invuln. And I'm just not having it, man. I'm looking to get some mortal wounds past that motherfucker. So I agree that the core issue is not necessarily the weapon itself. And I'm going to make a video about this, but the weapon itself, the bigger issue is you need to level your weapons up in conjunction with the actual difficulty. If you're using an artificer or a mastercrafted in a ruthless, you're just going to get dumpstered because there's a hidden mechanic to the power stat of a weapon that actually staggers things. And if you don't have that power high enough, you can't stagger and do sufficient amounts of damage. And it's partly because of the bullet sponginess of these higher difficulty Tyranid warriors. Let's go now into some quality of life because I just ranted hard there. So you asked to be able to have several of the same class in operations mode. There's also frustration in matchmaking. So for now, we are focusing on improving matchmaking so that you will not matchmake with players of the same class. So basically what the problem here is, if I start matchmaking as a bulwark and I jump into a match, well, then you jump into the match and maybe the bulwark's already taken, but you wanted to level up bulwark, so you can't level up bulwark. So that's the biggest issue right now. And I think that needs to be fixed. I don't necessarily think having operations mode exist where you can queue up all as the same class or as multiple of the same class is a good thing, in my personal opinion. I think that's okay for a PvE private lobby that has no progression, but 3 bulwarks, if you've played on highest difficulty, can be just absolutely game breaking, especially with the way that their banner is currently bugged right now and you can get completely full health back at any level. That's supposed to be a level 23 perk. So, and you heal up on the drop pod. That's also a bug. So those 2 things, or heavies heal up on the drop pod if they have the 20% health perk. So having 3 heavies all just healing up constantly on these drop pods, or bulwarks that can just interchangeably heal themselves, or 3 tacticals that can have 100% Auspex uptime, I don't think that's a great thing for the game's actual longevity and health. But they said right here, but we are considering it as an expansion of private lobbies in the future. I'm fine with that. Let me just screw around with my friend, 3 bulwarks, go to town, make a fun video out of it, whatever it is. But I think that not allowing the same classes is good for balance. It was observed that players tend to show toxic behavior as they get kicked late during a game, made by a group of friends to let their friend get the experience. We understand this is unfair, and each player will receive XP based on his actual involvement in the mission. And if you're doing this, fuck you. Don't be toxic. Have fun with friends, but don't pull that crap. Go back to Helldivers 2 if you want to do that. Save loadouts don't include skill tree customization, making them less relevant. This is not a priority for us at the moment. I don't like that one, because save loadouts, I think that this should be a lot of things. Saving a loadout should be a perk tree and weapon perk selections. So unfortunately, if you set a weapon perk on, let's just say, the bolt pistol on your tactical, it's the same on your tactical as it is on every other class. You can't have it loadout bound. You can't even have it class bound. So I would at least, bare minimum, like to see that be class bound. And save loadouts, I would like to have specific custom perk trees. At the current state of the game, though, I could see it not being a huge priority because there's not enough build diversity from class to class for this to be a huge necessity. There's very rarely a time where I'm going to choose a different perk setup unless I'm playing in a whole different way with different people. Like, playing on my own has a different perk setup than playing with friends. So it would be nice to have those saved to loadouts, but I could understand it not being a priority. I think, again, the bigger issue I have is not having weapon perks bound to specific classes and or loadouts. That's a bigger thing. So I do want to see that added in as soon as possible. About PvP matchmaking, they basically said that people that want to matchmake with a squad of 6 is just probably not going to happen. And I agree with this. For those that maybe came from games like Destiny that do have a lot of pre-made groups that just jump in and absolutely mess you up, or you've played Call of Duty with a pre-made clan, or you've played Battlefield on a clan server where they run pretty much pre-mades on one team or the other, it gets to be really rough and it gets to be very toxic. Especially if it's like a squad of 4 or 5 and you're the odd man out, or there's just 2 of you, it gets to be very toxic. So I actually prefer having it be at most 2 squads of 3. I at least feel like it's still going to be toxic. It ain't going to be any better. But still, I think pre-mades typically, it kind of blows out of proportion how balancing can work out. And pre-mades are just never fun to deal with. You jump into a group with a pre-made, you're just going to jump out. It's always a headache. So they said that they're going to work with it. They're going to work with it and see if they can have it worked on. We will let you know when we have clear visibility on when it will be released. But it is look like it's coming to the game. Balancing, it was brought to our attention that shock grenades are OP and assault is considered weak in PvP. Bulwark is overpowered in capture zones and heavy is overpowered. Too much damage for their durability. I like this response. Regarding PvP balancing, we are currently reading and crunching the data. We don't want to make rash decisions before seeing the global picture. At the moment, we are checking the most common topics such as melee balancing, shock grenades, bulwark and heavy being 2 present in capture game modes. Expect some tweaks in the first big content patch, but not before. I don't think assault is weak. I think it is a purely skill-based class, and it can absolutely wreck shop. I have seen absolute juggernauts playing Assault, and I think anyone that plays lots of PvP in the higher levels of PvP, once you start to really matchmake with people that have double digits in their levels, you're going to find that Assault is not a weak class. It is quite devious. Bulwark is overpowered in captured zones. I want that to be that way, because playing a Bulwark in TDM is not as fun. Playing it in the capture game modes is a lot of fun. I don't necessarily feel overpowered. I feel like there's plenty of ways to counter me, Assault being one of them, or just having a Vanguard lock you in place. I think Bulwark is actually in a pretty good spot, but I think that Assault and Bulwark are two classes that have different and wild skill ceilings and floors, and it causes maybe a misconstrued perception of how their actual balancing is. I think people try it once and go, well, tactical's easy, I'm going to go back to that. And I think that they're actually in pretty good spots. Heavy, on the other hand, I think is not overpowered. Heavy is overpowered. Too much damage for its durability. Heavy falls in higher PvP matches. If you play a lot, you see a lot of heavies. Heavies can get completely wrecked because people have learned how to counter them easier, right? Vanguard can kind of jump through them. In Assault, who jumps behind them messes them up. But they do very well against certain classes, right? A Bulwark can actually weather a heavy very well too. But a heavy can mince down a unsuspecting Vanguard or a sniper or a tactical. I think there's a lot of rock, paper, scissors in this. And I think the biggest thing too about PvP balancing is the meta, not even the meta of like the weapon options. I mean, the meta of how we play PvP has shifted from the first week to the second week so drastically. So I think that they're looking at they're kind of catching those data points as far as like, well, what are people doing now? People were saying, don't parry, never parry, parry's stupid. Now we're all parrying a lot more because we've realized you can actually shut down and create little tiny openings with parry. Parry has its uses in PvP. It's just way different than PvE. So I think that once the meta of how PvP settles, it'll be easier to balance. But I think right now it's a little too early. No team balancing after matches creates unbalanced matches for several matches in a row. Totally agree here, though. We have heard this many times. We want to improve this future patches. So right now, if you go into PvP, whatever faction you jumped in as, whatever game mode you jumped in as, and whatever team you jumped in with, they all stay the same until people leave or until you leave. You will always be a Chaos Marine for the entirety of you staying in that lobby. People will come and go if they wish, but you'll always be in like TDM or whatever it is if you press quick match. So I'm glad that this will be mixed up, and I would like for, if I quick match, it to actually cycle through different game modes, or there be just like a shuffle or like a party mix where it is just different game modes. So that'd be nice. Another big one too is spawn killing. This is like a pretty recent thing too. This is like the last like 5-6 days we've seen this become very prevalent, where a heavy will just sit there with a heavy bolter and just kind of spin around and keep shooting, and you spawn in and you're already getting chunked down for damage and die very quickly. So we will implement spawn protection in a future patch. So that's coming here as well. So most upvoted topics on that Focus has talked about here. Are we getting new colors for the lenses? New lens colors are planned on coming soon in the next big patch. I can't fucking wait. I'm sick of just having red and green. Give me some blue. I want to get some variety up in this bitch. You asked to pick the Space Marine Legions you want for every class. There are many lore restrictions preventing us from doing this. It is very tricky to match armor pieces for Chaos. Armor pieces have different sizes and styles that will clip through each other, etc. Also in PvP, it's important to be able to recognize an enemy's class, and we want to keep the visual identity of each of them. Now, we will not keep it as it is and would like to expand Chaos customization, but the reality is they won't be as modular as the Loyalists. I'm fine with this. I think this is pretty apropos. I mean, if playing tabletop, like the visual diversity of Chaos is great, but it's not so visually wild as it is for the Loyalists. And especially in the last like 3-4 years, where every 2 months we get a new Primaris model that looks vastly different in some way, shape, or form, and it has another damn name that ends in OR at the end. The Insectors, the Incisors, whatever the hell it is. But when you look at Chaos, it's a lot of different poses. It's more dynamic poses. It's a lot of horns. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of that. But it's not like, hey, these guys have scrawling, like huge, massive tabards. These guys have big shields. These guys have knight helmets. These guys have different helmets like you do for Loyalists. So I can vibe with that. But I think some Chaos customization would go a long way because, like they said right here, you know, We cannot make a sniper with a World Eater armor. Yeah, but you can make a World Eater have that one face that's got the pointed teeth. It's got the one face that's just howling. If the old people, I'm old. Oh no. For the people who have collected World Eater models for a long time, I've got tons of Khorne Berserkers. You have a lot of different Khorne Berserker helmets. So I think having different variety within the scope of what it is would be great. Like even taking a look at like the bulwark, right? Like we have plenty of Death Guard, plenty of Papa Nurgle style of helmets. Oh, maybe this one's got the stag helmet on it, right? Or like just a simple like no, I'll go with stag helmet. That's what I want to stay with. Or we look at the Alpha Legion. We've got a different, like I can, as an Alpha Legion, I can look like a Marine. No, not really. It was a joke there. But still, like there's a bunch of different ways. Even just looking at the tactical, not having any horns. I mean, there's so many of the Black Legion models that have horns on them. So it's like, I'd like to see visual diversity in the pieces that exist through tabletop that we already know, create the same appearance, right? Like, I guess their notion there of saying, hey, the Black Legion models that have horns, it can look too similar to a Khorne Berserker's crest of Khorne, mark of Khorne. The helmet the Khorne Berserkers wear, the World Eaters wear, is a very specific helmet, but my mind is blinking. So I can see that, but still, visual diversity would be king. Many of you have asked for new classes. This is definitely something we are heavily discussing. Adding a new class is quite heavy on production. We also need to create all the customization, PvP Chaos model variant, and animation set depending on what we go for. We'll keep you updated about this topic. They've said they wanted to do the Apothecary. So there's that. But also, PvP Chaos model variant, you got it. It's called the Thousand Suns. Give me those librarians. Give me a librarian model. Give him just maybe a set of pistols. A heavy bolt pistol would be kind of cool on them. We already getting a Volkite. It'd be nice for like a Grav pistol to finally bring Grav into the game. Give me a Force weapon, either a staff or I'm sorry, a Force sword or a Force axe, and then give me like a Force staff, like two different ones. Give me like a little bit of variety there, and give me a class ability that if I tap it, I smite. But if I hold it down, I drain like some sort of like resource bar, and it gives me like a 360 shield so I can get into close combat. Boom, there you go. There's your librarian. Stamp it. Let's go ahead and just send it out to production. My people will call your people. And we already have the PvP Chaos model variant because there's tons of Thousand Suns in the game. Boom, there you go. So we know that that's hopefully coming, but it's, I don't know. I want it now. About the missing armor colors, we aim to expand specific color masks, such as hand, decals, or face mask in upcoming patches. We will be adding all successor chapters eventually. Hell yeah. Adding new melee weapons. A new weapon would definitely be an extremely cool addition. Making a weapon and designing it is fine, but we need to make all finisher animations for it. It will take time. So I don't know what this means, right? Like we know that we're getting the Volkite pistol in season 2. None of this is said new weapon except for season 4. And we don't know what that new weapon is. So I'm hoping maybe it's the Force Axe since it's in the introduction to the game, but we'll have to see what that actually looks like. But that's their stance on it. Customizing your Marine's face. Not a quick fix, but we will add an option to change your Marine's face. Hell yes. Optimizing PvP crossplay. We will need more time to discuss this. Custom PvP lobbies will solve a good part of these issues. Thunderhawk customization, which is an option I didn't even think of, but they said doing a full battle barge and Thunderhawk customization is very cool, but not up in our priority list. We prefer to focus on our art teams on creating new maps. Totally fine with that. I didn't even think about that. That's a really cool option. I think moreover, it would just be simply cool to remove a lot of the Ultramarines forced customization and less of having Battle Barge and Thunderhawk customization. Like I'd rather their time went to me changing the Bulwark's flag to match the chapter I want it to, rather than it going to Battle Barge or Thunderhawk customization. That's a personal preference, right? Or any of the options that you choose for like, oh, here's not an Oath of Moment, oh man, the purity seal, a purity seal, but it's got Ultramarine symbols on it. Like, let me swap that around to match whatever symbol I've got, because it's really just a bunch of like little scribbles and it shows the Ultramarine symbol, right? So if I have the emblem set to be Black Templars, just swap it out. Pyroblaster in PvE or PvP, we will add it, but it will take some time because of visual and gameplay progression. We'll keep you updated. To be able to customize the AI squad mates, still in discussions. I would personally love this. And not even if they actually performed better. Those coming from Vermintide, you could actually spruce up your bots to be pretty damn good. But I would just like it if visually, whoever hosted the match, because in PvE, when you do operations, it is peer-to-peer hosted. So whoever hosts the map, it'd be really nice if whatever class the bot is, it takes your preset of whatever you've got, right? So if I've got my assault is set to be a blood angel, it looks like a blood angel. Delete custom armor profiles. We worked on this. It's in the next patch. Thank God, because that was annoying. FOV slider and left-right shoulder swap. So they basically are saying here, the FOV slider is just not coming. And the shoulder swap is not coming, but more because of a mechanical thing. I would like shoulder swap because it can be super disadvantageous when you're dealing with PvP. If someone just has the shoulder priority over you, they can kill you before your crosshair can get into range of fire to shoot. So that's how I think of it from a balance standpoint. I didn't think of it, though, from what they were saying. As for shoulder swap, if we are able to implement shoulder swap, we will need to support it for all melee animations and transitions because everything in melee combat was made based off the fact that you hold pistol in the left hand and melee in the right hand because it looks badass. Nevertheless, shoulder swap is a feature we will not add in the game. So I didn't even think about that, about how it affects melee, but I can see effectively, mechanically, how that could be an issue. And it sucks. I would like to see a shoulder swap. FOV slider, I don't think I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't think it's a basis for bad game design in a third-person shooter. That's a personal preference. If you want an FOV slider, that's your prerogative as someone who invests money in a game that they want. So I'm not shitting on your opinion if that's what you want. I don't see a value in it in a third-person shooter. I use FOV sliders when I play Hunt Showdown, when I play Call of Duty, when I play Apex. I get it. But in a third person, and also not like a sweaty competitive third person like a lot of the other ones that I mentioned, it's just like kind of like an arcade shooty one when it comes to a PvP standpoint, right? So, and there's so many telegraphs that tell you things are coming. I think if anything, what I'd like more is not an FOV slider so much as just let me bring the camera back just slightly or tilt it down a little bit more. And I'm talking like 3 or 4 degrees, because what I find is the biggest issue when I'm playing on Ruthless is that I can get swarmed by gaunts at an angle I just can't see directly behind my character. So just having a little bit more room there would be pretty huge. Get rid of class restrictions on cloaks and tabards. These are part of class identity. You get to recognize snipers because of those elements. I'm fine with that. Tabards would be kind of cool, maybe on some classes, and because everything has tabards from a model range perspective. Like you've got Stern Guard veterans who have tabards, and they are sometimes jump troops, sometimes they're not, and sometimes you've got tactical marines. The old Blood Angels tactical box, which I've got, has got tabards all over that damn thing. So I could understand wanting to at least have the crotch tabard on more options, but I don't think a cloak on more is better. I mean, the only models that have those cloaks like that are eliminators. Then, of course, you have your big sweeping, like, I am a captain or a lieutenant cloak. Those are different, of course. We don't have any model that has anything like that in the game right now, but I could see, now that I've read a lot of these, I understand the importance of a visual identity as far as like what it creates for engagements in PvP. Like, hey, I can prioritize that target because I can see immediately that is a sniper. And if multiple classes were able to have the Eliminator sniper shroud, the chameleon cloak, I could see it causing a lot of confusion of not knowing what to shoot. I understand that. But again, I think that tabards should be used on more classes, but to a lesser degree than it is on Bulwark, right? The Bulwark gets pretty wild with it. Even then, that's like a Dark Angels one at that point. And iframes on gun strikes. Gun strikes are a risk-reward action, and it is very easy to spam. We specifically did not want an iframe and on it for balancing reasons, and we are not looking to change this intention. And I 100% agree with it. Gun strikes, unlike executes, are very easily spammed. You do a dodge attack, and it immediately creates a gun strike. You use the wide arcing sweeps of the power sword, it immediately creates a gun strike. You use any of the pounds from the Thunderhammer, you use any of the slams from heavy by holding down the attack button, you do the stomps from your chainsword. All those create gun strikes. And if they deliver iframes with every single one of them, it superficially lowers the difficulty of the game. I think the bigger thing that players need to realize is that gun strikes have small iframe windows. So, for example, I initiate a gun strike. It's there. I've got the red crosshair. And right before I press it, the blue, I'm going to get you, Tyranid Warrior thing jumps up. I press the gun strike. Anything that starts its attack animation, by the time you press that gun strike, it will complete its attack animation, oftentimes even knocking you out of the gun strike. So the way to really maximize your gun strike iframe image, quote unquote, is realizing that if you use that gun strike, try to do it when something is not about to do a big attack on you. Again, no big red or blue icon telling you that you're about to get hit. If you do that, you will still get iframes, but it's not the kind of iframes that you get for execute. It just enables that once you started the gun strike animation, as long as something wasn't in the middle of swinging on you, you will get immunity for it. And by doing that, you will get your little chunk of armor back. So you don't get 100% iframes, but there is a moment of iframeage towards the end of the actual animation, assuming anything didn't start its attack animation on you. That's an important note about the gun strike. But that is it for the Q&A here. Let me know in the comment section below, right? I've made what is probably like an 8-minute read into a 25-minute video. And it's because I'm really excited about a lot of the stuff coming for the game. I'm really, really, really stoked to see how the Battle Barge Sparring Arena and the private PvE lobbies are going to feel. I want to see what that Season 2 goodness is going to look like. I want that Dark Angels cosmetic pack so fucking bad right now. And I cannot wait for the Blood Angels cosmetic pack. And I'm just so jazzed on whatever Black Templar stuff is coming. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are you feeling pretty good about all this stuff? Or are you feeling like they're missing the mark on a lot of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I gave you guys my opinions on all these things. And like I said, if you differ from my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your prerogative. You spent money on a video game. You can have different opinions or wants for that game. But I think the important thing is that we don't attack each other about it. We want to have the game be the best representation of it. And we have a discourse about it. Because what I've seen with a lot of developers is the second you attack them, they start to like reel away, right? So I think creating a discourse, trying to show, hey, the thing that's preventing me from having fun is this, and here's why, versus that's not good, you guys are stupid. From what I've understood and what I've talked about with so many developers in the past, who said, give me the obstacle you've got and we'll see what we can do about it, versus don't attack me because then I can't see what your obstacle is. I just get lost in the hate, which is very easy as someone who reads YouTube comments all goddamn day. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, guys. Thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.